How much time, approximately day to day, would you say that you spend on the internet?
Oh gosh, probably 4 hours, 5.
Hour maybe?
4 hours?
Probably 8 hours a day.
At least 3 hours a day.
About 3 or 4 hours a day.
4 hours a day.
3 hours?
Like 4 hours? I don't know. Okay.
That's it. All right. Perfect.
Do you think that the internet has changed the way we communicate?
Absolutely. Think of how connected we are.
And I think it fundamentally changes sort of how we perceive how we're related to other people, how far away or how close they are to us. If this were 20 years ago and my best friend moves away or moves to a different school, our friendship is basically over. But now we can keep in touch with email, with IM, playing video games, all that stuff. So I think it really changes the way we see the world. I think it is revolutionary.
So what is your definition of internet privacy?
It seems like an easy question when you start, but it's really complicated because to me, privacy on the internet means you have control over who has your information.
Do you post things on social media sites like Facebook?
Like relatively, yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
Yes, Facebook.
I use Twitter.
And did you ever regret something that you posted?
Definitely. There's always been something. I mean, doesn't everyone?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Is this for like middle school? Okay. In that case,
Not something that I posted, but I probably said some rude things that aren't really nice on things, so I regret that.
When my generation was growing up, I wrote down notes. I mean, it was funny because you'd write down notes, you pass them to your friends, and then you could crumple up the note and you could throw it away. Well, in your generation, you can't. That note is still there, and it can be altered by whoever wants to alter it. So it's a total different concept, and you have to understand that you have to put up boundaries, and you have to respect, you have to really be careful of your own privacy.
Your phones have cameras, or a lot of your phones have cameras. So when I went out and did stupid things when I was your age, and I don't want to go into them, but there were things, there was no record of them, right? You learn a lesson, but no one ever mentions it again. But you guys have phones, and it's a big kind of part of social media to take pictures of things and post them online. And what you have to realize, and I think this is key to managing your privacy online, is that anything that you post to a site like Facebook or an openly accessible kind of photo site is something that you have to be prepared that other people are going to see. It kind of lives forever. It has this life beyond you once you make it public, that other people can view it, other people can save it. And even if you do something like delete it off Facebook, it's not entirely certain that it's going to be gone, especially if someone saves the photo or saves the link or saves the URL.
We're seeing now a lot of kids that are your age that are sending pictures that are inappropriate, that don't really understand that you could send me a picture with every intention of it just being kind of silly and funny. I could save it and do something else to it and then put it out on the internet, and you have no knowledge of it until you actually see it being laughed at or whatever.
What steps should be taken to keep our information and computer private?
Don't friend anybody else that you don't know in the physical world. So if I only meet somebody, if you and I are friends in the physical world and we know each other, but I don't know your sister and I don't know your cousin and I don't know your aunt and uncle, I should not be friends with them, okay? And don't ever agree to meet anybody that you maybe meet online. So if you're in a chat room, or if somebody posts a message on your Instagram account and suddenly they say, can we meet? No.
Also, never give out any other private information, anything that's identifying. First names are kind of a gray area, but never give out last names, birth dates, locality, where you are, what school you go to, friends' names, that type of thing.
So, and you guys are going to know more about it than I would. So you guys are going to have to help teach. If you know how to use it and you know how to be appropriate with it, you're going to have to help teach kids that are younger than you.
One of the biggest things that I do to manage my privacy is to make sure that nothing I put on social media is something I would not be comfortable sharing with my mom and dad. And again, this is because I'm social media friends with my mom and dad, but I think it's a good policy to have, that it's going to keep you at this nice bar as to what is appropriate to put online and what maybe should just kind of be private. So that's my advice for how to manage your privacy online. Keep it mom and dad friendly, even when you're pushing 30.
So have you ever had a virus?
Yes.
We always have the threat of hackers. We believe, based on the data that we have, that our computers at the university are attacked about 10,000 times per day.
Wow.
That's a lot of attacks, right?
So you guys are probably getting hacked.
Well, someone's trying to hack us today. Now, that's not to say they're successful. It's to say we have 10,000 or so attempts a day. About 99.5% of those attempts are stopped by a piece of equipment we have called a firewall that only allows authorized traffic through. So then we're only dealing, with a small percentage of attacks. Of those, every once in a while, something happens where information is taken from the university in a method that we don't approve of. And that happens, right? And we do all we can to control that, then contain it and respond to it. And I've seen it happen, on the campus, but it's not nearly as frequent as what one might imagine. If you store data, eventually you're going to have an incident. I don't care who you are, at the top levels of the United States government, the National Security Agency, what happened? I'm sure you guys have heard they lost the most sensitive secret data of our country, right? So it happens everywhere. I think the important thing to recognize here is, are you aware? Are you taking steps to prevent it? Are you educating people? And then how do you deal with it once it does take place?
What can people do to keep their identity and computer safe?
So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have a password for every site you're using. You want to make sure it's not something that's like super easy to guess, like say like a birthday or a pet's name, right? But something you can remember and never give it out.
To prevent identity theft, what you want to do is make sure that as little of your information is out there as possible that could be compromised. So what that means in real world terms is, on Facebook, for example, don't accept friend requests from people who you don't know. Because just because you pump up your number of friends that you've got and it looks good like you're super popular, but now all these people who you don't know have access to where you're going, what your pictures are, who you're friends with, all things that can be used to steal your identity if they wanted to. So steer away from adding friends that you don't know on Facebook or LinkedIn or other social networking sites, I would say. Don't ever, if someone sends you an email, and the email either seems too good to be true, if they offer you something like $100 or a free iPad or something, if you give them some personal information, ask yourself, does this seem like it would really happen? And if the answer is no, this doesn't seem like it would really happen, then don't give them that information. You should never give away personal information through an email or through a social networking site. There's no reason why anybody's going to need that information from you. And there's a technique called social engineering, which is a fancy term for manipulation. And a lot of times, in order to steal someone's identity, people will engage in social engineering. They'll promise you things as rewards. They'll threaten you that they'll turn off your account if you don't do something. They'll do anything to get that information from you. If you feel pressured, or if it seems too good to be true, then it's information you shouldn't be sharing.
How can people determine what kind of privacy settings they should expect on their computers?
Every web browser is going to have some security settings or privacy settings. Mostly it'll be called under security. In general, it's just something, the only way you can control it is by knowing about it and going in and changing those settings yourself. So you can't really expect anything to answer your question, I guess. You have to kind of go in and figure it out.
Okay, so from an individual standpoint, the very best thing that you guys can do to protect your computer, or in a corporate environment like we have here, is install a trusted antivirus package on that computer, because it will look for all those malware threats. Make sure that you patch that computer, that when there's a patch for the operating system or for the applications that fixes a security vulnerability, you apply those patches on a regular basis for that machine, and that you keep your antivirus updated. Third, try not to visit websites that may contain malware on them. So the question is, how do you know which websites do and don't contain malware? There's no surefire way, but I can tell you that websites that deal in illegal activities, they've already proven that they are without ethics and without morals. And so if you're going to, let's say, a website that might sell bootleg CDs, for example, or fake Rolex watches. That website is already shown they're unethical. They are probably more likely to have malware embedded on their website than it can infect your machine, rather than if you go to CNN, which is just news, if you understand what I'm saying. So watch where you surf, install antivirus software, and patch your machine. Those are the 3 pieces of advice I can give.
Thanks for doing this interview.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Do people applaud now? I don't know. I also like I could just solicit applause from you guys. That's great.